Hello, my friends. Come on in. We're just a few minutes away from getting started here. And I wanted to let you know as we get started that those of you who are here live, who registered for the event, you're here on the Zoom platform. We do have the Q&A open. And you can also use the chat. I won't be monitoring the chat as much, but I do have Jeff here in the back office who can watch some of the comments as they come up. You're welcome to use the Q&A and the chat as we go through this webinar today. And that will give you a chance to interact. I'm going to be saving some time to answer your questions. And some of you have already submitted those questions to me. So I've got those in front of me as well. And we will be ready to roll. Are you ready? I think I'm ready. Let's get started, shall we? All right, I need to push one more button and we're good to go. All right, welcome. Here we are. How to enjoy the holidays without losing your mind. And hopefully it's not too late, right? We can still salvage this. Why are you here? Some of you did respond to me by email, and I'm getting some consistent themes. The holidays are stressful. That's an interesting opinion, and it's one that we often share. Okay, we're going to talk about that today. You want a little more peace and hope, right? Especially at this time of year when maybe you should be feeling a little more peace and hope. Awesome. And you're ready for a change. A lot of times things click along in ways that you didn't really anticipate, and you're ready to change that up. Well, you're in the right place. I am Dr. Paul Jenkins. I am the positivity psychologist. And I started positive psychology before it was even a thing, before they had graduate programs available in positive psychology. It's always been an interest of mine. And I've done a lot of work in that area, including 3 books that I've written, popular podcast, YouTube channel. I know this positive psychology inside and out, and I've helped thousands of people just like you to accomplish those things that you said that you came for today. I've been doing this for about 30 years now. So I've got you, all right? I've got you on this. Now, here's what we're going to cover in this mini class today. I am going to share with you a model that changes everything, and it's not just about the holidays. It can't be, right? Because life is so much more than the holidays. You'll be able to use it immediately. But this model changes everything. What it really is the instructions, the operating instructions for the equipment of your own mind. Does that sound good? I will give you 2 brain hacks today that you can use right now. This makes an immediate difference. Now and over the next 5 days, you'll have some specific things that I will invite you to try. And I call them brain hacks. It's really just understanding how to operate the equipment. We'll get to that. I have a special offer for you. Please stick around till the end because we have brought back one of our most popular offers and it will be live for you today. So hang on for that. And then I will save some time at the end to answer your questions. So if something specific comes up for you, please go to the Q&A if you're here on Zoom. If you're watching this live streamed on YouTube or catching it after the fact, then you can still submit your questions either in the comments or via email. We'll try to get to as many of those as we can. But for those of you who are here live, and the ones who have already submitted the questions, we're going to get to those. So I'll save some time at the end. How does that sound to you? Are you ready to roll? Let's do this. Let's jump right in. My job is to illuminate the obvious. And this is really cool because I get paid to tell people things they already know or to show them things that they already see. But there's a lot of obvious things that are unnoticed, like the feeling of your shirt. Can you feel it? Well, now that I mention it, but you didn't really notice it before I called it to your attention. Or the fact that we're speaking English. Anybody notice? Some of you may have, if you came here as a speaker of another language and you're adjusting to English. But for most of us who are programmed to speak English, it didn't even occur to us, although it's obvious once I call it to your attention. The processes in your brain are in that space. They're obvious. You'll see them immediately as I call them to your attention, but they're completely unnoticed until the time that I do. So this is the first one, metacognition. You know, if you've never heard that word, don't worry about it. It's a made-up word. We make up words in psychology. It makes us feel smart. And this is one of them, okay? Metacognition. If we break that word down, cognition simply means thinking. And metacognition is a higher level. It's thinking about thinking. You with me still? Be careful with this. You can hurt yourself. But notice in this moment that you can do this. You can think about your thinking. This is extremely important because thinking about thinking creates a little space. And in that space is where choice exists. Until you see it as a choice, it's not. And you'll roll with whatever your programming is. So stick with me on this as you turn on your metacognition. I invite you to think about your thinking for the next 45 minutes or so. And it will light up some principles for you that are absolutely life-changing. Okay, so here's where we're going to start. It is what it is. You know, is that annoying to anybody else? It probably depends on who's saying it and why. But for today, all it means is the way things are right now without changing anything. So it's who you are. It's what has already happened. It's where you live. It's what you have. It's who you're with. It's the way things are right now without changing anything. It is what it is. Now, this might help. And since we're having a holiday themed webinar today, as we approach the December and January holidays that are coming up, and we've just passed, at least here in the United States, we've just passed Thanksgiving, another major holiday. My family and I have had some interesting experiences. We were on our way for Thanksgiving. We were joining our son in the beautiful countryside of Montana. And there were some storms that had happened just before the holiday. And it had created some slick roads and driving conditions. And this is something that we worry about sometimes when we're out on road trips. But we were on our way. Let me just show you, because this will make more sense if you can see what I want to share with you here. Whoops, push the wrong button. Here we go. All right, you can see this now. I've got it up on the screen. This is the vehicle that my daughter-in-law's brother was driving. He was coming from school. He was attending school in Idaho, driving across Idaho into Montana to join us for Thanksgiving. And this is his vehicle. He had slipped off the road. The car rolled down the hill and into a ditch. Happy Thanksgiving. Okay, now just consider for a moment how you feel as I share this with you. How we felt as we came upon the crash site. And my son had called me just moments before that, and he said, be really careful out there. Tyler was just in an accident. So notice how you feel. I'm just inviting you to notice that right now. And I'll tell you the rest of the story, okay? Because you're probably wondering what happened, right? What I told you, it was slick, it was icy, rolled off of the road down into the ditch. And he was able to crawl out of that vehicle basically uninjured. Okay, now how do you feel? Do you notice? And if you're here live, you can go to the chat and chime in about any of this. How do you feel? How did I feel? When I found out that he was able to crawl out of that car basically uninjured. Now the car is totaled. Relieved. Yes. Yes, that's the number one answer. Relief. What changed? Actually, nothing about the incident, nothing about what it is changed. Let's go back to the model. I want to show you something about what your brain is doing. All right, here's our accident, okay? And it is what it is. And what it is this car carrying my daughter-in-law's brother slid off of the road, rolled down the hill and into the ditch. And he was able to climb out basically uninjured. So that's what it is. What is your brain doing? The word that I've put there on the model is evaluation, meaning judgment. And I invite you next to notice something, that you are constantly judging. Aren't you? Yeah, you are. And so am I. Okay, it's what we do as humans. What we're talking about today are principles of psychology. When I use the word principle, I mean natural laws. Like gravity. You never get up in the morning and wonder, I wonder if gravity's on today. It tends to be, right? And this also is a principle. Your brain's main job, actually there's two. There's two main jobs your brain has: to keep you safe and to prove you right. And they both get us into trouble all the time. But because your brain's job is to keep you safe, it has to keep this evaluation turned on. When you're conscious, at least. It has to be on. So it's constantly judging. And you're constantly judging. Aren't you? Yeah, you are. You judge yourself. Pretty harshly sometimes, I might add. You judge your family, your spouse, your kids. You judge your neighbors. You judge whatever they're doing for the holidays. You judge all of your extended family. Do you see where we're going with this? You judge the government, the economy, the weather. You're judging me. It's cool. I'm judging you. We can't turn it off. I invite you to notice that that's happening. It's important to see this in our own mind because this changes our approach. And you'll see what I mean as we get further into the model. So let's go to evaluation here. It is what it is. And what it is, in the example I shared with you, is a car carrying a member of our family, slides off of the road, rolls down the hill and into the ditch. It is what it is, right? Can you imagine anything different from that? Yes, you can. Now look at this picture from it. My wife thinks I need to quit using this because she's got a case of arachnophobia. Is this a big spider? That's an evaluation question. Okay, might be kind of hard to tell. Does this help? Now, it's so interesting when I show, I actually posted this picture on Facebook when my son and I captured this spider. And I posted it on Facebook and I'm like, check out this spider. And people are like, oh, it's so cute. Oh, it's got 7 legs. Oh, and now you're counting, aren't you? It's got 7. Um, when I posted the original picture, which was this one, and I thought they don't get it. They don't see what. And so then I posted the next picture with the dollar bill there. That gives a standard of comparison. And evaluation implies comparison with some standard. Now, it's interesting to me that when I posted this second picture, some people started to comment, oh, wow, it's a lot bigger than I thought. And a few people said, oh, it's not as big as I thought. Well, why were they thinking anything different? Because they had their own imaginary standards. If you don't have a standard to compare something to, you'll make one up. And you've got a really great imagination. Let me share with you another example that's kind of fun for me, because I'm a puzzler, and especially around the holidays, I spend a lot of time puzzling. This is a puzzle cube. The original was made by a company called Rubik's. So you've heard about Rubik's cubes, right? Or it was called a Rubik's cube. This is a Chinese version that doesn't have any stickers on it and it moves very smoothly. I really like it. And now some of you are feeling anxious because I just mixed it up. I can solve it in a minute and a half. Okay. I'm pretty good at solving this cube. Now, this cube looks impossible to some people. How does it look to you? Can you solve one of these? Is that a hard puzzle? How about this one? This one has 4 layers to it, not 3. This is a whole different process. How about this one? This one has 7. So is it a big puzzle? Is it a hard puzzle? Excuse me. Is it a big puzzle, a hard puzzle, a challenging puzzle? Well, it depends on what you compare it to. I hope you're connecting the dots with your own thinking, because we cannot turn off the evaluation that our brain is doing. Let's go back to our model here. Now, in the example that I shared with you, and by the way, I'm sharing an example. So I want you to take your car crash, train wreck, divorce, diagnosis, bankruptcy, whatever your version of the car wreck is, and plug it in here. Okay, because this is our story with Tyler's details in this particular version. Okay, you with me? So plug your own what it is into the equation as we talk about the model. Now, in the example, what it is the car slides off the road, rolls down the hill and into the ditch. Can you imagine anything better than that? Okay, how you doing? You got it? Yeah, not too hard, right? How about no accident occurs? Because that's usually what we're going to compare it to. And when we look at this wreck, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it depends on what you compare it to. Just like that spider, just like my puzzle cube. Is this a big deal or a little deal? Well, it depends on what you're comparing it to. Now, when we take what it is, and what it is the car slid off the road and rolled down and landed in the ditch, right? When we compare that to something better, like no accident, then how do we feel about the wreck? Ugh, this sucks. This is terrible. And you're correct. Compared to something better, this really does suck. You are always right about how you feel. How you feel is 100% consistent with the way your own brain is doing this. Now, you might be getting ahead of me, right? Can you imagine anything worse? Because then I told you the rest of the story. Remember that Tyler was able to crawl out of that vehicle basically uninjured. And you said you felt relieved. I felt relieved as well. Yes. Now, can I just ask you real quick, were you pretending to feel relieved? No. And neither was I. I was so grateful that it was that outcome instead of what? Something worse. So when we take what it is, the wreck, the way it is, without changing anything, and we compare it to something worse, like we have to leave to go prepare for a funeral, then how do you feel about what it is? Woohoo! Now, and it might, I exaggerated that, right? It might not be woohoo. It might be, oh, whew, that was close. Close to what? Close to something worse. And it wasn't. And we feel grateful that it wasn't. What it is neutral. Okay, now I need to emphasize that. What it is neutral. When I say it's neutral, I don't mean that it's pleasant or easy. It might be very difficult and painful. But it's neutral because it could always, you know, my editor tells me to always avoid the word always, and I just used it. What it is always between better and worse. Right? And don't take my word for this. I want you to run it through your own filters. Make sure that this is true. Because then we're going to come back and apply it to whatever your what it is. And whatever's going on in your mind about the holidays. Do you remember I was sharing some of the feedback I got, or some of the why you're here? The holidays are stressful. No, they're not. And this is where some people fire me, because they're like, yes, they're. Remember, your brain is trying to keep you safe and prove you right. And if you've already decided that the holidays are stressful, your brain is going to provide ample documentation and evidence that that is in fact true. But it doesn't mean it's true. It means your brain is trying to prove you right on that. You can see why I get fired for this sometimes. But you're still here. So stay with me here. The holidays are neutral. Our stories about them are not. And our stories have to do with our thoughts. And there's two levels of thought. I'm sharing with you the first one, and that's evaluation. As we judge what's going on, check it out. The holidays are only stressful compared to something that we think is less stressful, and it might be imaginary. The holidays are only peaceful compared to something more chaotic, right? I invite you to notice that. And I have a little disclaimer. I am not here to tell you how to think. I don't have that kind of authority. I do want you to see that you are thinking, and your thinking makes a difference. What it is neutral. It's always between better and worse. And what it is all you've got. Now, I'm not saying it's all you could have. We're getting to that. But I am saying, by definition, it's all you've got right now. So I invite you to notice that. Okay. I promised you 2 brain hacks. Here's the first one. Write this down. The gratitude power up is something that you can start right now to invite your powerful brain to do something different with what it is. And that might be the holidays. It might be that party that's coming up. It might be that gathering with some extended family folks. It might be that shopping list or that list of expectations, whatever it is. Here's the gratitude power up. We're going to do a little gratitude exercise. And a lot of people do gratitude exercises. You've probably done some before. It's a well-established way to get yourself into a different mindset. But people make an error. I don't want you to make the same error when you do your gratitude list. And the error is they do the light lifting instead of the heavy lifting. Picture this. If you go to the gym every day, it's going to make you stronger, right? Okay, but what if you go to the gym every day and you pick up a pen off of the reception desk and you do 5 reps with your right arm, switch it over, do 5 reps with your left arm, and then set it down and come back the next day? That's not going to make much difference. You got to put some weight on. That's what I mean by doing the heavy lifting. In gratitude, people wimp out and they list things that are easy to be grateful for. You know, like health and family and puppies and rainbows and indoor plumbing. Anybody can be grateful for that. We're asking our brain to work differently for us. So I'm going to invite you at this point to make your gratitude list and write down these numbers, 25-5. This is what I ask all my clients to do. If you've done any coaching with me, this will be really familiar, okay? 25-5. 5 means 5 days. Starting today, you make a list of 25 things that you're sincerely grateful for, at least half of your list every day. And don't repeat anything on tomorrow's list that was on today's list. Stretch a little. Let's do some lifting. Some people are like, oh, that's a lot. Really? It used to be 100 a day. You want to go back to that? Oh, doesn't seem like that much anymore. See how your brain is doing this? You can't turn it off. All right, so 25 things, at least half, that's 13 if you're doing the math, has to be about the hard stuff, about the car wreck, about the diagnosis, about the divorce, about that favorite relative that's coming over. Okay, you pick something that's hard, difficult, frustrating, annoying, and ask your powerful brain to give you what you're sincerely grateful for. Now, I'm not saying you have to be grateful for that car wreck, you know, whatever your car wreck is. I'm saying open it up. Look inside of that, rummage around a little bit and see what you can find that came from that, because of that, as a result of it. You see where I'm going. What did you find in that car wreck? Our son went through a cancer journey of more than a year of intensive, brutal treatments to treat this cancer. Well, what could there be to be grateful for in that? As I opened that up, I found an opportunity to be in the home of my oldest son and his 5 beautiful grandkids, his lovely wife, 9 times last year, and they live in Chicago. We're in the mountains of Utah. Would I have experienced that without the cancer? Probably not. Am I grateful for that? Yes. Okay, so I'm not saying you have to be grateful for the thing, but open it up. Look around. Are you in? Make a commitment to yourself and to everybody that you love to do the gratitude power up. Are you in? Okay. And if you didn't respond positively to that, you can keep having whatever kind of life you're having. That's an option too. Pardon me. This is what you get with live, you guys. My voice is trying to give out on me. Here we go. All right, let's move forward because I want to keep all my promises to you today. There's your gratitude power up. Now let's go here next. I told you there are 2 processes in your brain. There's more than 2, okay? But we're talking about 2 today. The second one that I want to address with you is creation. Creation of what is to be. And that doesn't exist yet. We haven't created it yet. So the only place it exists right now is in our imagination. And everything has to be imagined first before it can be created physically. It's called the psychological, or some people refer to the spiritual creation of something. It has to happen first. Mental. Okay, the plans are drawn up before any hammers are swung. All right, you with me? You are a powerful creator. In fact, let's connect to that real quick. If I were to give you an assignment, and by the way, all the assignments are optional. But why are you here? Because you want something different, right? So let's jump in. What if I were to give you an assignment to somehow take 15 minutes? That's all you get. 15 minutes to somehow make your life worse. Now, don't go do this, all right? Would you ever do that? On purpose, I mean. Yeah, we do it accidentally all the time. But notice how quickly your powerful brain came up with half a dozen ways to pull that off. It wouldn't even take 15 minutes, would it? Notice this. We have the power to make a mess. And over 30 years of clinical experience, how many people have come into this office or on this Zoom and described to me messes, huge messes that are going on in their lives, in their relationships? I've been a shrink for 30 years. You can't shock me. I've heard some of the darndest stuff you can imagine. And that impresses me. What, the messes impress you? Yes, the fact that we can create a mess, because here's the good news. It is good news, okay, that you can create a mess. Well, how is that good news? Look, if you can create a mess, then you can create, and that's good news. Now, what do we create? That depends on you. And without taking intentional control over it, default is down. Have you noticed this? If you park your car on a hill and you leave the brake off, which direction does it go? What if you just let go of your workout plan or your diet or your relationships? Which way do they go? Yeah, default is down. So notice that intentional effort is needed to take creation in a positive direction. It's good news that you can make a mess, because that means you can make. All right, so let's go back to our model. We're not going to get into the whole creation model today. I spend multiple day trainings on how to create. And part of what I'm going to offer you is an opportunity to get into that. Okay, so just put a pin in that for a minute. But let's focus on the feelings. When we imagine, because we don't know, go there. How are you doing next week? You don't know. There are a lot of people, because they're very positive, they're like, oh, I'm doing great next week. You don't know. And thank you for evaluating that in advance in a positive way. I think that there's some benefit to that, but you don't know. And so all you can do is imagine. Now, when we imagine, because we don't know, that what's coming is even worse than what we already have, how do we feel? This, my friends, is anxiety. That's 30 years of clinical experience in a nutshell right there. Anxiety is when we imagine, because we don't know, that what's coming is worse. Okay, what happens when we imagine that what's coming is even better than what we've already got? Woohoo! This is hope. And I just have to add a little caveat here, because hope is the #1 preventative factor for suicide. Some of you may have caught the Hope class that I taught earlier this year. Hope is available on demand, and it is the #1 preventative factor for suicide. We know this because the #1 causative factor or predictive factor is hopelessness. It is what it is. What is to be is yet to be determined. I just want to acknowledge, because some of you are in very difficult and often extreme circumstances. Some of us have lost loved ones during the holidays, and that gets attached to it. Some of us have very challenging family members that tend to show up around the holidays, or there are expectations, or whatever's going on, right? And I was doing a podcast interview with this beautiful soul. She grew up in a very abusive environment in, I think it was Haiti, and eventually was able to escape that years of abuse. She's now a pastor or minister up in Canada somewhere. And she said this to me. It's always stuck with me. She said, extreme does not equal extraordinary. Extreme does not equal extraordinary. And I share that with you because it's really easy for our brain, in trying to keep us safe, it identifies our extreme circumstances and then concludes that we are some kind of a special case, that this is outside of those models that Dr. Paul teaches. Extreme does not equal extraordinary. I've been a shrink for 30 years. You can't shock me. And I have heard some of the darndest situations and circumstances that you can imagine. They are acknowledged to be extreme, but that's not extraordinary, because other people go through similar and often worse things than that. So I'm not diminishing or minimizing anyone's experience here. I invite you to look at what your own brain is doing with it. And then it's up to you where you go with it. Remember, I'm not here to tell you how to think. I just want you to see that you are. Now, I promised you 2 brain hacks, right? Here's the second one. The first one has to do with evaluation. Okay, you're going to do your gratitude power up 25/5. At least half of your list every day is about the hard stuff. Do the heavy lifting. Now, here's the second one. This droid is called BB-8 from the Star Wars series, and I'm a kind of a Star Wars fan, especially when I was younger. I enjoyed those original 3 movies. We'll use this droid to remind us of the hack. All right. How sure are you that 8 o'clock is coming? Now, you can just look at your watch right now. We've got people from many, many different time zones here on our call today. So wherever you are, how sure are you that 8 o'clock is coming? Pretty darn. Yeah, me too. How sure are you that you'll be around for 8 o'clock? Almost as, right? And why do we ever doubt that? We've got a 100% track record. So far, we've made it to every 8 o'clock our whole life. Now, there are only 2 options. I used to think there were 3. I eliminated that third one because I don't think it's possible for things to be exactly the same at 8 o'clock as they are right now. Do you agree? By your own evaluation, which you can't turn off, things are going to be either better or worse. It can't be exactly the same. At the very least, you're going to be a little older, right? You might be more hungry, more tired. It depends on what you did just before 8. So it's going to be different. Here's what BB-8 stands for. Better by 8. Write that down. Better by 8. This is the hack. What can you ask your powerful brain? Again, remember, we're training this to work differently for you. This is the operating instructions for the equipment. Ask your brain to suggest to you something that you could do to make your life, your relationship, your finances, your holiday plans, whatever it is, better by 8. Either a little or a lot, it's up to you. You're the creator. Now, what do you notice your brain doing? Yes, thinking. Ding, ding, ding. A lot of times our brains are busy, but we're not really thinking. We're spinning out on some old patterns of stories that don't serve us well. Let's get that brain thinking. What could you do? And I'm not talking next week, next month, next year. I'm talking 8 o'clock. That is totally doable. If you will do this brain hack for the same 5 days that you're doing the gratitude power up, you get to have 10 upgrades. How cool is that? Notice how that feels. Let's put you back in charge of this. I think all too often we're like, oh, the holidays are going to be this or they're going to be that or whatever. Like we don't have anything to do with it. And at the very least, you can reevaluate those things that you think are bad because they're only bad compared to something better. And that's all imaginary. That's not what it is. All right. Who's in? Who is in for BB8? Better by 8. Those are your 2 brain hacks, okay? I promised you that. I got a couple more things that I promised you, but I want to warn you about something. Where we start in evaluation mode determines the energy that we take to creation mode. When you start thinking, oh, this sucks, this is terrible, this is horrible, this is awful, probably you're going to take that energy and show up and make things worse. People come home thinking, oh, my job and the traffic and everything, it's just terrible. And then they go home and yell at their spouse or kick their dog. You're making it a mess. Please remember that you've got the power to make a mess. Let's see if I can get to my next slide. This is our little dog, Mozzie, little Yorkie poo, about 10 years old. Do not say that he's cute. I know where you are going with this. He is not. Why? Because he likes to snack on shoes. This is not a great image, but you can kind of make it out there. I came home one day and he had made a snack out of my Echo Helsinki Oxfords. Paid almost $120 for that pair of shoes. I was not happy. Now, why? Because I'm evaluating this to be bad. Now, notice what your brain's doing with it. Well, it is bad, Dr. Paul. No, it's neutral. It's neutral. Now, it's normal to have reactions when things that are unexpected happen and when things that we don't prefer happen. And this is only bad compared to my imagination of this not happening. What did this create? Here's a picture of the same shoe after I decided that this was an opportunity for me to reboot my leathercraft skills. I know, pretty impressive, right? Well, Mozzie didn't stop with that. A neighbor of mine, this was during the holidays when a neighbor of mine wanted to give a copy of my book, Pathological Positivity. This one, if you can see the little picture of me. He wanted to give this to his 3 adult children for Christmas. And so he came by the house and he said, do you have a few copies? Yes, I did. And he gave me 3 crisp $20 bills in exchange for those 3 books. I set them on the nightstand. I thought, and when I came back after going to run an errand, I didn't see the $60 on the nightstand. a little bit of a search revealed shards of those $20. Yeah. You see this? This is on our bedspread, and I found little pieces of what used to be crisp new $20 bills. I approached the dogs, Piper and Mozzie. I said, "Who did this?" And Piper was just like, "Huh?" She's right here behind me, sleeping on the couch over there. She didn't know anything about it. Apparently, Mozzie gets that guilty look on his face. Now, I've heard that dogs don't really have guilty looks. Anybody who owns a dog, you know different. He had that look like, "Oh, I'm in such trouble." And I was able to prove it the very next day as I was cleaning up the backyard. All right, now let's not linger on that one too much. How could that possibly be good? Is it a bad thing that my dog ate $60? If I see that as an opportunity, and you can see what I've done with this because I told the story to you. You're not the first audience that I've shared this story with. I'm a professional speaker. What would I pay for a story that's true, that has images that I can share to teach principles? Is that worth at least $60 to me? Oh, yeah. This was a good thing. Now, I acknowledge the initial gut response, the programmed survival mechanism response is, "Oh, this is bad." It's not bad, it's neutral. And when we start from a positive place, we can go create something that's even better than what we had before. Okay, so be very cautious about how you are judging your circumstances. It's a lot easier to get to better from good than it is to get to better from this sucks. And remember, extreme does not equal extraordinary. It's still neutral if it's painful, difficult, frustrating, hard. Okay, it doesn't mean that it's bad. And it's only hard compared to something easier, right? All right, here's the whole model. And I wanted to share that model with you as an introduction to what's possible for your mind. Here's what we've put together for you. Can I just shift gears into that? And then I want to get to some of your questions. So be ready for that. There's a Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're on YouTube, you can use the comments. I'm not monitoring that closely, but I'll try to grab what I can before we're done. Here's what we put together for you. You'll see a URL there at the bottom. And Jeff, maybe you could post that into the chat as a clickable link. liveonpurposecentral.com/holiday-special. What do you get there? A clear path to mental hygiene. This is the way I like to think about Live on Purpose Central. This is a membership site where we pay attention to mental hygiene. You've heard of dental hygiene. Well, your brain, your mind is so much more important than your teeth. What are you doing to take care of it? You will find there a community of support, peace, and hope are available on demand. But that implies that you know how to operate the equipment. So we're going to practice that together. A transformed home and family culture. You've felt something here. You've noticed something here. What would it be like if you had a resource that provided you the support, the knowledge, the connection that you're looking for? Okay, let's I'm going to depart from the slide for just a minute to give you a little tour of Live on Purpose Central. What do we get there? As I share this, actually, this is the URL that I told you about. Let's go. Oh, I've got the wrong screen here. Be patient with me as I find the right screen. There it is. Okay. Is that it? Yes. Here we go. When you go to liveonpurposecentral.com / holiday-special, okay, it's in the chat for those of you who are here on Zoom. It will take you to our sales page. You'll notice there's a countdown. Oh, and it says 11s all the way across right there as I said it. That's how much time is left on this particular offer. I want to emphasize that this is a temporary offer. It will expire at midnight on Christmas Eve. That's December 24th at midnight. There's a lot of sales copy here that will help you to know what's in it, what do you get. But here's the bottom line. For $545, you get an entire year of membership at Live on Purpose Central. That is over 50% off of the regular price. Normally, this membership costs $97 a month. Okay, that's the kind of savings that you're getting if you join during this holiday special. Here's what you're going to get. Weekly coaching with me. I commit an hour a week to be there live at Live on Purpose Central. You can come. You can raise your hand. You can ask me a question. You can submit a question by email. I cover every question I can possibly handle during that hour, and I'll get to yours. Okay? Weekly coaching with me. There are live discussion groups led by some of our certified positivity practitioners. You will get the Positivity Power Up course. I sell that for $400. Go to positivitypowerup.com. You'll see that it's a $400 purchase. It's included as part of your membership. You'll get the Parenting Power Up. Also a course, and we've added new features to that course for those of you who are parents. You also get a 5-day challenge to get your kids to listen without yelling. And we've added a video course that wasn't there when we first launched the original audio course. You'll get my book, Pathological Positivity. It's there for free. It's a digital copy. Okay, it's one that you can read on your computer or on your phone. I also put the audio book there for free. It's part of your membership. You'll get my mini book, Portable Positivity. That's the one that describes the model that I've shared with you here today, and much, much more. Remember, if you were to pay monthly at the full fee, you would pay almost $1,200 for a year. We are putting this on sale for $545, and that's only until midnight on Christmas Eve. Okay. When you click the button that says take me to the order form, it just scrolls you right down to where you can fill out a really simple order form and get in today. Now, why would you want to get in today? Well, because it's time, right? Because it's time for you to have more peace in your home, to have that transformed family culture. I've got one other thing that I want to share with you about that, and then let's get to your questions. First of all, therefore what? Okay, you've felt a little bit of peace today. What would it be like to feel more of that, to have some hope about really getting in charge of your thoughts? Either you run your thoughts or your thoughts run you. I used to have a clinical psychotherapy practice. I did that for 15 years. I've switched over to this positive psychology coaching for a lot of reasons. Short version, it works. It is powerful. It's impactful. Your whole family can benefit from your membership at Live on Purpose Central. Now, you're here for a lot of good reasons. It's not only for you. You think about it. It's for everyone you love. And this benefits everyone who comes in contact with you, by the way. Some think it costs too much. Just before they say yes, they might think this. I've shown you what discounts we're making available to you so that you can come in at a much more affordable price. What does it cost to continue with the same emotional baggage or messes that are cluttering up your mind and your heart? What would it be worth to feel some relief from that? Okay, and this is guaranteed, by the way. If you are unsatisfied, we'll refund your money. We make it ridiculously easy for you to cancel if you decide this is not for you. We're going to take some of that risk off of your shoulders because we're here to help you, not to create another burden. Some think that they don't have the time. How much time are you spending fretting? Could we spend, what if we could give half of that back to you as peace and joy? I know, easy math, right? Or some people say they've tried everything and it hasn't worked. You haven't tried everything. That's not even possible. Come on in today, will you? Though I like to reward action takers, and because of that, I'm going to stick around for another 15 minutes or so to answer your questions. Anyone who signs up before we sign off will get a free 30-minute private consultation with me. And I've got a record of whoever signs up within that time frame, and I will reach out to you personally with a link to my calendar, and we will talk privately. Okay, I don't do private coaching except with my Positivity Artisans group. That's a very tight inner circle group. I've got a half a dozen or so clients who meet with me privately, but I am opening that up to you because I want to reward your ability to take that action. Now, you'll need to move quickly anyway because it expires at midnight on Christmas Eve. Okay, I think I mentioned that part to you as well. Let's get to your questions. Okay, and by the way, if you have any questions about the offer, you can put those in the chat. Jeff is here and he can help respond to those. But what questions are coming up for you? Let's go to John first. John, how can I stay calm and positive when dealing with difficult family members during holiday gatherings? Thank you, John. Common question. Hopefully you got some tools today. First of all, I would invite you to notice that you are labeling them difficult family members. Here's a little hack, and some of the other questions are similar to this actually, and so we might be able to handle some of those all together. Ask yourself, when you're asking a question like this, ask yourself, is that really true? So these are difficult family members. Pause. Is that really true? Now, remember, your brain's job is to keep you safe and prove you right. And so if you've already decided they're difficult, your brain is going to start handing you all of the evidence that that is true. The actual truth is, let me pull up the model here. Here's how difficult your family members are, John, right here. It is what it is. Could it be worse? Oh, yeah. Could it be better? Well, obviously. This is neutral. That alone changes the energy with which you approach it. Here's another thing that I've discovered, and I've given many clients this particular assignment. If I were writing a book, John, let's just say that I'm writing a book about dealing with difficult family members during the holidays, but I don't have any really great real examples. Okay. And so I send you in with a secret little recorder, a spy recorder. I want you to capture evidence of difficult family members in action. Okay. And I'm going to pay you $100 per clip that you can get for me on this little spy recorder. Okay. And my question to you is, how does that change your energy, your attitude going into the holiday gatherings? Are you secretly kind of hoping that they do it again? Right? Okay, so notice how your thinking matters and your evaluation first, and then let's use creation to see where we can go with that. You might have a different goal. Instead of, oh, I have to put up with these family members, it might be, how can I come up with some way to improve their life during this gathering? And I'm just using that as an example, but if you will shift the direction of your own mind, it changes your energy. And that changes the interaction as well. Okay, let's go to Ella. And I see, Carter, I see your hand up. If you could go to the Q&A and give me a quick snippet of your question, I'll handle it that way because I've got a lot of questions I want to try to get through here real quick, and that will help. Thank you. Ella, what strategies can I use to balance the demands of holiday preparations without feeling overwhelmed? Okay, the word that I caught there, Ella, is demands. Who is demanding this? All right, that's the first question. Who is demanding it? And you might say, well, we always do it this way, or everybody's expecting me to. Okay, let's get clear about who is demanding it. And it might be a story in your own mind about how the holidays should be. That's all imaginary. Now, I know that there are traditions, and I think that there's value in traditions. But if traditions become demands, they're not fun anymore, are they? You might, if you go through this exercise, Ella, who is demanding this? And what if I didn't do the holiday preparations? Well, then I would be unprepared for the holiday. And that would be bad because everybody would be disappointed in me, or I wouldn't enjoy the holidays as much. What we're trying to get to, Ella, is choice. Pardon me again. Choice, right? Do you have any choice in the matter? And you will probably conclude, I want to do this. Or I don't. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Is that too simple? You might say, well, I really do want to do it. Okay, well, that's different, right? That's no longer a demand, that's a choice. If you can shift from demand to choice, I'm guessing the overwhelm is not going to be an issue. Okay, because you're choosing to do it. Does that help, Ella? Let's try it. Okay, Bree, how can I manage my own expectations to avoid disappointment during the holidays? Similar answer for you, Bree. Notice where that's coming from. Who is expecting? You say my own expectations. Well, why are you expecting this or that? I think I mentioned this earlier. Sometimes our brains are really busy, but we're not actually thinking. Just because your brain is busy doesn't mean that you're thinking. I'm inviting you to ask different questions. Okay, do I have to expect this? Interesting question. You may not have asked yourself that. Do you have to expect it? What else might serve you better? And here's the truth. Better is always different. Now, I'm not saying different is always better. It doesn't go both directions. But what could you do differently that might change things up for you? Okay. Let's go to Phil. I know I'm hitting these quickly, but I go into a lot more detail in our weekly Ask Dr. Paul sessions. If you are a member at Live on Purpose Central, you have access to that every week, along with all of the archives. If you can't attend in the live session, you'll be able to go in and listen to the recording. And here's the thing. I'm not going to get to every question. I can already see that it's probably not going to happen that I'll get to all of them. Maybe, I don't know. I'm going to get back to it. But here's the thing. When you hear someone else receiving coaching from me, your brain will identify what you need from that conversation. Have you already noticed that? Your situation is a little different, but you know what? This is our story with Bree's details in this case, if I can use you as an example, Bree. Um, it's our story with someone else's details. So your brain will grab what you need from that. That's why I'm such a fan of positive psychology coaching, even over the traditional therapy that I used to do. Carter, I hope I didn't scare you away. Can you go to the Q&A and put your question in? I'm going to keep going down the list, and it's okay if you've moved on or if I've already answered it too. Let's go to Phil. Will that brain hacks you gave us help me avoid burnout during the busy holiday season? Yes. Yes. Unequivocally. Yes. Those brain hacks. Here's what's happening with the brain hacks, Phil. And you're talking about burnout specifically. But we could go back to Bree, you're working on disappointment. Ella, you were talking about feeling overwhelmed. These are common concerns that come up often during the holidays. Here's what the brain hacks are doing. We're steering our brain in a different direction. When you really understand that circumstances are neutral, it no longer is the busy holidays, it's simply the holidays. It could be busier, it could be less busy. It's neutral, okay? And the brain hacks help you to find gratitude and peace in what it is, the way it is, without changing anything. This, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, Phil, but when you look at the model, okay, this arrow right here, when we do a positive evaluation, it generates peace. The quickest way to get there is through gratitude. That's why I gave you that particular hack. When you feel peace, your heart and mind are not going to feel peace and burnout at the same time. You're choosing peace on purpose by making that positive evaluation through gratitude. Now, when we go up here, this is anxiety over here. Okay, this is depression. Down on the evaluation side, the red arrows, depression and anxiety. The green arrows are hope, or peace. And on the top is hope. Because when we anticipate better things to come and we get involved in creating those upgrades, we feel hope. And remember, hope is the #1 preventative factor for suicide. And that's extreme, but what else could that help with burnout? Yes, the brain hacks will help you with burnout. And Better by 8 just makes it so doable. It's just a chewable chunk so that you can move forward with that. Few more here. Sanjay, how can I handle financial stress and still create meaningful holiday experiences for my family? You know what, Sanjay, your question is the answer. You ask the question, but make sure it's a question, because a lot of questions that we ask are actually statements disguised as questions. Let me give you an example. Well, how can I handle financial stress and still create a meaningful experience? See how it's not really a question? We just change the energy of it. How can I handle financial stress and still create meaningful holiday experiences? And that might lead to the next question. Do I need money? Does financial stress have anything to do with having a meaningful holiday experience? See, we start asking real questions and invite your powerful brain to handle that. Sanjay, I'm seeing as I was answering that, there might be 2 different approaches here. How can I handle financial stress and still create meaningful holiday experiences for my family? If we separate those, meaningful holiday experiences have nothing to do with your finances. They just don't. How did I learn this? when you get into the platform, you'll have access to my book, Pathological Positivity. And chapter 1 is called Lightning Strikes. It's when I went through a bankruptcy. Do I know anything about financial stress? Yes, I do. And Sanjay, I feel you. I hear you. I see you. I know what that is like. And what that experience taught me is that they're not connected. My peace, my joy, my meaningful experiences with my family have nothing to do with the finances, unless I make it a thing. It doesn't have to be. Now, the question on how to handle financial stress, whole different question. And I teach a course. In fact, when you get into the membership, you'll have access to the Positivity Power Up. One of the modules there is another model that I teach. This is a model, okay? And I teach that in the Positivity Power Up. A little later, I introduce you to another model called Happynomics. And this is how your finances and your emotional and relational and mental health are tied together. And you'll have some insights there too. Ask the question and allow your brain to handle it. Make sure it's not a statement disguised as a question. I'm hoping that helps. Okay, here's Carter. I have multiple family members who regularly, some more than often than others, spiral in depression. Yeah, it's almost epidemic in some circles. I've been using your model for a few years, and it has helped me a lot. I've tried to encourage family members to take your course and to put in the work to change their thinking, but have had one family member get offended from me offering advice instead of validating. I know, and I could go off on this whole validation thing. See, our brain wants to keep us safe and to prove us right. And because our brain's trying to prove us right, validation seems valuable. In other words, if someone else will tell me I'm right, then I'm good, right? And then you're saying, any advice? Should I stay away from giving advice from the severely depressed? Yeah, maybe. And it says Carter's wife, Michelle. So maybe this is Michelle I'm talking to, right? And the follow-up, should I encourage therapy along with life coaching, or is one better than the other for the severely depressed? Let me just, Michelle/Carter, let me just take a minute to address a couple of elements here. Coaching versus therapy. If you go to my YouTube channel, you're going to see a whole lot of videos that I'm putting out nowadays about coaching versus therapy. You're going to find a bunch of them there. And I'll refer you over there because we don't have a lot of time to get into the differences today. Here's the short version. If you look at your mental health on a spectrum or a continuum, clear over here on the left end is the sick end. Well, what's on the other end? To understand that, if we go to the middle first, that's health, meaning not sick. So you could be sick in bed with a fever. There comes a time you can get out of bed and you're not sick, but that doesn't mean you're truly fit, thriving, prospering. That's at the other end of the spectrum. So the short answer to coaching versus therapy, on the sick end, that's where we use therapy. And the goal is to get people out of bed so they're not sick. Coaching picks up this other end of the spectrum, okay? And there's some overlap in the middle because everybody has issues. You've probably noticed. We handle those according to principle. And the principles are like the models that I've shared with you here. Now, back to the other part of the question, what should I do with family members, especially if they're severely depressed? Sometimes the best thing you can do is simply live the principles and be an example of what that does for you. There's an old joke about how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? I don't know if you've heard this one, but the answer is only one, but it takes a long time. It's really expensive, and the light bulb has to want to change. You're noticing this with your family, right? Because unless they are enrolling you to help them, they might be resistant to any advice. And I think one of the best things that we can do is to continue to love them, to listen with empathy, and rather than validating, acknowledging and showing empathy. Now, there's other strategies that we could get into. In fact, we have some communication modules there on the site that are really helpful when it comes to listening or to working with our family. Hopefully that'll help a little bit, give you a few ideas. Let's go to Olivia next. How can I help my children focus on gratitude and joy rather than material gifts and getting all upset if they don't get what they want? Olivia, a similar answer to what I shared with Michelle and Carter. Be the example. The other thing that I'm noticing, and this is a whole different topic, that we actually get into a little bit in the parenting power up area there at Live on Purpose Central. Entitlement is something that is running rampant. And I recommend to families that you have a weekly or at least regular, okay, if not weekly, how regular can you make it? Family council meeting. And there are some elements to that. The quick version is it needs to be regular and expected so everybody knows when it is. There's a principle that is taught or discussed, and usually the parents are in charge of that. There's an activity that everyone enjoys together, and there's a treat. And don't skip the treat part. That's really important to the kids too. Now, what you pick for that treat is totally up to you. But those four elements give you an opportunity to discuss these principles with kids. I've also found that experiences are powerful. I remember one Christmas when rather than doing our traditional, and we did a lot of the traditional things too, but we spent time on Christmas morning putting together gift bags that we had arranged with the local police department to deliver to first responders on Christmas Day. It was so cool to go down there and to share our appreciation with the people who were serving and protecting our community. And experiences like that can make a big difference. Kids will have ideas about that too. And there's probably more we could do to get away from entitlement. Okay, two more, and I think I've cleared the docket here. Brenda, let's go to you next. What techniques can I use to quickly shift from stress or negativity to a more positive mindset in the moment? Brenda, the two brain hacks. Okay, I know you submitted this question earlier. This is one of the ones that was emailed. The two brain hacks. Can you see where that's going to help immediately? Jump in, give it a try. Melanie, how can I make sure I enjoy the holidays myself instead of just focusing on making them perfect for others? Oh boy, this is a big one, especially for moms. Especially for moms. I don't see dads worrying about this nearly as much as moms do. I'm not sure why. And maybe moms, it's because your heart is there. You want people to have an enjoyable experience, but that's not up to you. That's up to them. And no matter what you do, they're still going to have their own experience with it. Melanie, the short version is do the brain hacks. Get really good about identifying what's going on in your own mind and asking different questions. Self-care is not a luxury. Self-care is a requirement, especially for people who are in a position of authority or responsibility. Oh, pardon me again. All right, you guys. We've taken a little more time than I had planned, but I'm going to turn you loose now. Remember, that special offer is good through midnight on Christmas Eve. And what we did is we actually brought back our Black Friday special because it was very well received. Some of our members are enjoying their membership now because of that. We're offering you that same offer. So go to liveonpurposecentral.com/holiday-special. Holiday-special. And remember, liveonpurposecentral.com. That's where you can get into it. We're going to send you a recording of today's webinar as well if you registered. And those of you who are watching on YouTube, obviously the stream will be available there for a bit as well. So thank you for being here. I honor your journey. I'm honored to be on your team. And maybe we can go enjoy those holidays without losing our mind.